well.
They say break a leg?
Yeah, should be fun.
I think we need to get rid of these cups. Plastic.
I'm a bit nervous because it's like you're on stage, even though you're not.
Well, I think if it's a team,
It's like, oh God, I've forgotten my lines.
but that might be there's an interval in between. I can't remember the agenda now.
What's my line? Who are you?
If you're socialising afterwards, 10:30.
Have you seeded a prompt?
I might be wrong then. I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah. That happened to me once. I totally. I was doing this thing, and we'd done it like 16 hours, and I just got to the end of it now. I'd said it so often, it had been shot from the ceiling, the floor, the side, the wind, and I just completely forgot the lines. And I'd been doing it all day, and I'd done it 16 times. But the people I was talking to knew
Why are the
line.
girls here and boys there? What's that about?
And started saying them back to me. So they would be going.
It's a bit of an us and them thing going on here, is there?
And I was looking at them like. And I thought, you're never going to work on this town.
Oh no.
And I did one of those things, I just looked at the floor like that.
Adam, you should know, because I've been finding a Conservative household on the candidates trail. I've been telling them you've got it sewn up, they don't even vote.
Don't do that, whatever it is. Nothing for granted, honestly.
You might get a surprise.
Okay, yeah. Put money on that, didn't you?
You just never know. You don't know how something's going to be.
No.
So I thought they would have selected you for a kind of more solid Labour seat this time.
Live at the moment, just visual. We're going to be checking audio, so your mics will be picked up.
Okay.
For minutes just to check that the audio is sounding right.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Is that Jen?
Sorry?
Is that Jen?
That's Jen. That's Jen.
So now we're on our best behaviour.
This contains.
Oh, we are all the time.
Just reassuring us there.
Good idea.
That's what they
Because
all
I
say.
was going out a horrific anecdote.
Jesus, it's so sweet. Just what the psychiatrist thought.
Too much sugar.
Yeah, I'll probably, yes, we must work together and do it now, and then just collapse.
Just don't clench your teeth at the wrong time in your fists either. So anyway, you're telling me that everything is politics and how you sort of got involved.
Well, it's kind of more like everything is acting, we interact.
Yeah.
This is acting. Politics, acting, it's all acting, it's all interacting.
So why the Green Party? What was it about the Green Party that really sort of attracted you?
Survival. Life.
So you felt very strongly about climate change and
I believe in life and I believe in sustaining it.
Where else you living now?
Datchet.
In Datchet.
that's quite a step going from what I believe in this to then to be.
Well, someone's got to do it.
Stan, you're right, someone does it. Yeah.
Are you involved with politics?
Yes, we're going to do the
I've been a party member since
activities,
06.
one amongst us.
So most of my adult,
take that as a yes.
most of my adult life, but I've been
You're
in
going to
the activity levels tend to peak at election time.
Interesting, 6. That's quite
So it's an
informed
odd,
decision.
well, it's an odd time to join, isn't it, really? Yeah, it was a big
Quite young,
place.
isn't it? Very young. I was trying to think what I was doing at 6.
06.
Oh, 06, sorry, I thought you were 6 years old.
No, I wasn't signed up by my parents.
Yeah, I was
No,
trying to work that one out.
I was born and raised in Reigate in Surrey,
right,
and they read the Daily Mail, so I'm very lucky to end up
Let's go, guys.
on the red side of the divide.
lots of familiar faces.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things. A lot of good things that resonate with people. I think it's.
I have reservations, but I kind of respect
that needs to be pulled out there and
their
discussed
intentions, you know.
and looked at.
There seems to be lots of actions,
Certainly we get more
not a
stuff.
lot in the sort of political sphere. Not certainly not on their website.
they're not really a political party. They're,
Yeah.
you know.
So you wonder, how long will it be able to keep up
we
that
don't hear anymore.
steam?
They're all.
You know, I don't think so, because what happens is you raise the temperature so much that you destabilise
get
things.
used to get.
And if you don't have a guiding
don't get that
body per
anymore.
se,
I think it's coming back.
you know, it self-implodes in a way.
I think the way they've organised themselves and funded themselves has been stunning. They've managed to organise
Yeah,
this
you have
very
to,
short
if you
space
can
of time.
harness that energy properly, it's over.
So yeah, it'd be great to see them sort of channel that into practical action. Not practical action in terms of
Testing.
things on the ground, but also in terms of political change. So you don't have any
Did someone pop that through your door? Was that...
connection to
Yeah, I've never seen this guy before. Not unless you're
The last of the members tonight.
Right.
but then you could be a member.
Actually, I was only got delivered today. We've been doing photocopying as
I'm not telling you.
printing priorities.
happy to declare.
It's taken us a while to get them off of. We wrote a campaign promises so far. By the time we got it, we just published a manifesto.
I want to go to bed early tonight, Chris. Can we get on with it?
You're not going to be
Trying to do a job as well.
after 10 days.
Good evening.
Oh, they must have heard me.
Good evening. On behalf of the Old Court Art Centre and Windsor Eaton Brewery, would like to invite you here tonight for what I hope will be quite a special evening. I've just got a few simple housekeepings to do. The first, of course, is the usual instruction to turn mobile phones off to avoid them going off. Secondly, the toilets here are all downstairs, through the foyer downstairs, and there's no planned fire drills tonight. The fire exits are mainly here to the right, to the right as you're looking. That goes straight out to the car park. So through that door, straight out beyond that in the car park. Through the door you all came in by, takes you back in at the foyer, and thence back to St Leonard's Road. Or out the back, takes you, if you turn left at the back there, to the top of the stairs, and takes you back down to the foyer. Okay? And my other simple job is to introduce you to the person who's got the hardest job tonight, and that is Nahid Majid, who is sitting next to me. Nahid is a former mayor of Windsor and Maidenhead, and also in his spare time runs the finance for a digital infrastructure company. And we're very lucky to have her here tonight to do this, what for me will be a very complicated sort of job. So, Nahid, over to you. Thank you very much.
Hopefully everyone can hear me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A special welcome to all our students here tonight, especially from Eton College, Windsor Boys School, Windsor Girls School, Charters and East Berkshire College. Before we go into the evening, I just want to give you an overview of the format of the evening. We will start off with each of the 6 candidates making an opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. I will notify the candidates when they have 1 minute left. We will then open up to the audience to discuss 6 key topics: education, NHS and welfare, Brexit, economy, environment, and then we go on to local issues. Each topic, the opening question will be asked by one of the students, and there will be a 15 minutes interval during this after the second topic. When asking questions, please wait for the mic to arrive so everyone can hear you, and state your name, and please state a question, not make a political statement. Closing statements made by each candidate, maximum at the end for 2 minutes each, will be in reversing order of the opening statements. So I'll start off with Julian, Tisi, if you want to come over and make your statement from the Liberal Democrat Party.
I don't know about you, but I'm really worried about the state of our politics. Just the tone of the debate, just how nasty it's become. And it seems to be that one of the prime causes of this is Brexit. It was won, let's be honest, through deceit. And there's this idea that it must be done at all costs. Now, I was in Eton Wick last week, and I met someone who said, not someone who was supporting us actually, but said, oh, we thought it had to be done. And I asked, well, why? What do you see as the upsides of Brexit? What do you think will be good? And she couldn't name a single thing. In fact, she actually said that it might split up her family. She said that her daughter was going to move to France if it went ahead. Now, I didn't pry into why, but this seems to be the paralysis we're in. Whatever they cost, we have to do it. Now, if there's one thing that I'd like you to take away tonight, it's that we can stop this. We can vote, you can vote, to stop Brexit by voting Liberal Democrat. Now, let's just talk about the Conservative Brexit position, because it's just ridiculous. They say get Brexit done. They should really say get Brexit started, because they've barely started. They've done the easy bit. The withdrawal agreement, that was supposed to be done years ago. But unleash potential. Well, how exactly? How does Brexit actually solve anything? Now, any Brexit we know, I'm not going to reel off the reasons why Brexit will be hugely damaging, because we've heard enough about it. In fact, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to talk about the upsides of Brexit. I'm going to ask you, what are the upsides of Brexit? We'll talk about that, no doubt, later in the Brexit question. But what were we told? Well, we get these wonderful new trade deals. Really? Well, so far, we've managed to get out of 40 deals that the EU already has, that we will lose, along with the deal with the EU, as soon as we come out of the transition period. We've so far signed 15, including great nations such as Iceland and the Faroe Islands. Not one of these has been on better terms. And what about the United States? Obviously, that's the big prize. Now, let's be honest here. I was told it would be a bend-over agreement, is the way it was described to me. It is naive to think that this is going to be any deal that's going to be remotely good for Britain. We will be desperate, and we will have to, frankly, we'll be at the mercy of Donald Trump and whatever he wants, such as access to our NHS. Take back control? Not really. Let's give it to Donald Trump, or maybe to the EU, and we will then have all the rules but no say. And when the history is written of Brexit, if we leave, they will marvel at the act of vandalism on the economy, the union, the threat to our fragile peace in Northern Ireland, even families like the lady in Eton Wick. Now, what about Labour? They'll also marvel at Labour, at how they've sat on the fence. They've said just enough to both Remainers and Leavers. Even their pledge now, we're going to have a second vote. Well, that would be wonderful, but I sort of don't believe them. They've had 17 occasions when they've so far not whipped their MPs to support one. Brexit also blows an absolute gaping hole in the credibility of both Conservative and Labour spending commitments. Leaving won't end uncertainty. We'll face years more negotiation on trade deals. Meanwhile, businesses' living standards will suffer. And also, you have to say, what about Boris himself? He is personally responsible for much of the division and the dishonesty in our politics today. It's really difficult to know where to start. I could reel off the list of things. We were actually given a dossier, I kid you not, 12 pages long, and that was just the headlines. He's lied to the Queen, the Parliament. He gave them just 3 days to approve his deal, then called the Ben Act asking for more time, the Surrender Act, then said he didn't really want an election. What a load of rubbish. Now, since I've only got now, I think, 42 seconds. See? Let's just talk about the Liberal Democrats. We believe in freedom. We believe in extending opportunity to all, in fairness to those in need, across generations to our future world, looking deep, trusting people, looking deeply into problems, but not looking for scapegoats. We're internationalists. We believe in a rules-based world order, protecting peace for 70 years. And those values permeate our priorities, which we'll talk about later. Finally, you're choosing a local MP. I live here, I will live here, I will commute like many of you, and I'll be available to all.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a second breath.
Thanks, Julian. Wisdom to Costa from the Independent Party. Can we welcome you?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, guys, welcome and thank you for coming here tonight on a cold, windy, wet night. But it's great to see so many people here to take an interest in really leadership and governance in this country. Okay, am I ready to start? Yeah. Great, thank you. I want to present with you a different proposition. You have to think again. Perhaps this is how politics was always meant to be. Politics is broken. Parliament is in disarray, unable to deliver the result of a vote 3 years ago. Brexit has dominated the political landscape. Our parliament is in gridlock, and the pressing issues that face local people today are being entirely neglected. Party politicians seem to forget that they are here to represent you, to serve you. I think it's time for our elected representatives to take time to listen to you, to support you, to act on your behalf. That's you, our residents and our businesses. We can do things differently. We live in a fast-paced society where technology drives society positively and negatively. And in nearly every aspect of our life, it's driving our futures. Yet our politics seem to be archaic. Some would say analog, stuck in the 17th century. A vote for me, and you'll get a friendly ear to let you have your voice heard. You will feel more involved in the process and happier within the next 3 years. Representing you will be my priority, my job. I will spend time with you and listen to you. I will push issues on your behalf, even if I don't agree with them. I will fight for the issues that you care about. I believe in you, collaboration, and in your collective intelligence, so I will give you a say in votes in Parliament. Yeah, that's right, using technology, I will give you a direct say in how I vote in Parliament. I've taken time to listen to you, councillors, councils, parish councils, town councils, businesses, scientists, experts, church leaders, local leaders, residents association and residents. And this is what you've said to me about the big issues which affect us locally and the negative experience that needs solutions at a governmental level. The destruction of our planet and ecosystems, yes, climate change, and the loss of biodiversity is paramount, or we won't have a future. The unchecked proliferation of plastics in our oceans and seas and all around us in the community. The loss of green belt and a poor use of land and poor planning that affects biodiversity habitat and eventually our well-being. Inadequate infrastructure that leads to congestion, pollution, and reduction again in our well-being. There's a lack of homes for young people and for key workers. And that includes GPs who struggle to get into work here in this area. There's a lack of effective transport solutions, limiting access and mobility, and pushing us to car use, which is the opposite, of a destruction of our planet. So, deterioration in education funding leading to overly large class sizes and a lack of resources for students and teachers. We have a loss of youth services and opportunities affecting all of our young. And finally, there's the danger of a third runway with its gross impact on our land use, traffic, congestion, pollution, the ecosystem, and our health. So all of these issues and solutions will be up on my website in the next couple of days, because these are the issues, but we've got solutions. So the website will be representingyou.org. We need leadership and something different to take us forward. We need to collaborate with each other so we can get the best we can in the short time we have available to get it right. A vote for me will give you that choice, that voice, one which is responsive to the people and not to political party machines, which will bring to the forefront the key challenges and hold those that have created this inaction to account. Thank you.
Thanks, Wisdom. Fintan McKeown from the Green Party.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I'm really glad I can see these young people in the front rows, because you're why I'm here. Because I don't know if you have a voice as yet, but I want to give you a voice. Time is of the essence. There is a climate emergency. There is a state of emergency. It exists here and now. The planet, Earth, England, this environment, Windsor, is in rapid decline. Sick, toxic, dying. There's only one antidote to it. Change. Change everything. The environment, what is it? It's the air that we breathe. It's the food that we eat. It's the water that we drink. It's not out there, off somewhere else, elsewhere. It's right here. This is it. You're on. I want to look you in the face and the eyes, and I want to be able to say that when you're of age and you vote and you grow up, 11 years from now is all that remains to reduce carbon emissions. 11 years from now, I don't want you to look at me and go, what did you do? I realize that this is an emergency. And now is the time to act. It's action effect. You have to get out of the debating society. I'm stunned at the impact that young children, teenagers have had in the world over the last couple of years. It's remarkable. In one case, a lot of that is attributable to one young girl, a Swedish girl, left school on a Friday, took a banner, sat outside the Swedish government to protest the destruction of life. Her life, our life, all our lives. This is the one opportunity we all have for singularity of purpose, whatever your opinions, attitudes, traditions, is to join together and harness this energy that we have and defeat this nonsense. Your chance, your opportunity. It's our opportunity. We can do this now, but we have to act immediately, radically. Change. Thank you.
Please welcome Peter Shearman from the Labour Party.
Good evening. Is that, I might do that. Tinser, yeah, we all right? Good, super, good stuff. So good evening. So my name's Peter, Windsor resident, Labour Party candidate for Windsor for this general election. I'm afraid I haven't perfected the dramatic pause to quite the same effect as Fintan. I thought that was superb. Thank you. At this election, I think I get a vote as well. We have a choice. We have a choice facing us. We can choose a plan of hope and of progress, a plan that tries to create a fairer and more equal and just society. Or we can get Brexit done. And get Brexit done is this year's strong and stable. And last time we did this, anyway, no, I made a joke about strong and stable. We'll move on. Because actually, the point is that it's government and policy by soundbite. and you read the first page of the Conservative manifesto, and the start of every line, get Brexit done so we can do this. Get Brexit done, get Brexit done, get Brexit done. It's not a plan for the country. And what's funny is that, as a party, they've had plenty of opportunities to get Brexit done, and they haven't managed it. And yet again, here we are, as an electorate, having a vote because the Conservative Party can't agree with itself over Europe. And if we look back at the last 9 years, we've got a history of governments focused on austerity and focused on Brexit. The upshot of that is that, as a society, we now have the greatest burden being shouldered by the most disadvantaged and the most vulnerable. We've got universal credit, sanctions, even the language is punitive. We've had the bedroom tax, we've got the rise of homelessness and the growth of the working poor. We've ended up a more uncaring and a more divided and a more unequal society. And what's interesting about Get Brexit Done is that when we're on the doorstep, that's not what you hear. It's not what people want to talk about. This is a general election, and they're interested in a plan for the future of the country. They're interested in what we're going to do about the NHS, how we're going to fix funding in schools, how we're going to solve accessibility and public transport, what's the plan for climate change. These are things that come up when we ask on the doorstep. Brexit is way down the list. Only the Labour Party can be trusted with the future of our economy, of our society. We are the party that will bring public investment back into public services. We will address the chronic underfunding of the NHS and protect it from a Trumpian trade deal. We'll bring about a Green New Deal, an action on climate change, because exactly as Fintan described, it is an emergency. And we'll bring about a sensible Brexit plan and put that back to you for a final choice, with an option to remain. That's what a general election should be about. It should be about the future direction of the country. It should be about what we want as a society, how we want to be, who do we want to be. It's not about a soundbite. It's about the future we want to make together. The Labour Party is offering a plan of hope to create a more equal and just society. Thank you.
Please welcome David Buckley from the Independent Party.
Well, hi everyone. So here I am, no home for my vote, broken party politics, no representation, hollow promises from the main parties, possibly years of hung parliaments. We are desperate to find the answers, and a party representative, they don't know how to do this. Well, I have an answer for you. Let's all start talking to one another. Let's become less tribal and open-minded about change. As an independent, I can cherry-pick ideas from any party policy or look to introduce the best policies for you. I can do this while Parliament is paralysed, or in a minority government, as I have one vote for you. No party politician here tonight can offer you this, as they are led by party lines. Having been born in 1963, I lived in the 70s, the 80s, 90s, where party politics worked, where we trusted and believed in democracy, where we had aspirations as young people, where we dreamed of owning or living in our home we could afford, where we could get a job that would pay us enough to support our family, where we had a functional health service that offered the highest levels of care, where we had better air quality, a sustainable environment, and a manageable climate. It was a time when you could get support if you were vulnerable, where a pledge by a party in an election campaign could be trusted, where we had majority governments that could implement those policy promises, where 650 leaders understood the needs of the people, where we were free to enjoy life without being force-fed fake news, hollow promises from people we do not respect or trust. Yes, this was the past, and yes, times have changed. Unfortunately, the 650 people that represent us have not changed with the times. The 650 have not learned anything from the recent protest votes. We have had no representation, no one fighting our corner. Take Brexit. Your representative followed the party line to support Leave when you, the constituents, voted to remain. This was the start of party politics not working for you. I know the Conservative Party is not listening to you when they put the same old as your representative in Windsor. Actions speak louder than words. The actions I see from the Conservative Party is a lack of moral standing and backbone. Boris said we will stand in front of the bulldozers at Heathrow, then retreats to become Prime Minister. Boris said he will not split up the UK, then push the DUP under the bus. Boris said he will leave the EU on the 31st of October, but could not deliver. This personal ambition is what is truly wrong with party politics. The lack of representation has further fuelled division in Windsor. Our current representative feels that he does not need to be concerned with constituents' views, needs or feelings, as he has the right to be elected under a party heading. The Conservatives are confident that voters in the constituency will not vote differently. If this does not prove the culture of party politics is broken, I don't know what does. Each main party is stubborn, focused to their own selfish party beliefs. They say they want to listen to you, but they cannot even listen to one another. They are too busy with their own egos and their own party or personal needs, rather than putting the people first. As an independent, I'm not alone. I have everyone who votes for new culture in Parliament.
1 minute.
There are many like-minded MPs who feel passionately about their constituents and do not want to sit by and oversee further decline in services and support. A vote for any party is a vote for the same old, same old. There is no evidence of cultural change from any party. It is them or them. I understand what needs to change. I get it. I can offer a cross-party vote for the best policies for you. I can offer you honesty, not just hollow promises. I can offer you common sense, adult politics, where we can discuss cross-party solutions to fix all the broken areas of the economy, education, health, housing, environment, development with infrastructure, and get the aspirations back for future generations. Thank you for listening. This was my first public session, so thank you.
Thank you.
Last not least, Afriyie from the Conservative Party.
Well, first of all, a huge thank you to Jen and to Will and to the Old Court, and above all to Mahid for making this evening possible, because I think it's really important in the current kind of polarised politics that you actually get to see the real people involved in it, and you can make a judgment about what you think about us and about the policies that we represent. Now, I'm conscious I do know many people in the audience, from 2 or 3 necks of the wood in terms of political background, but I'm also conscious that many people may not have met me before. So I wasn't born in Windsor. I wasn't born in Windsor. I wasn't born in a beautiful area like this. I was born in southeast London, and I say I was dragged up lovingly in a single-parent household, in social housing. It was tough. It was really interesting. And it was really tough, and I had to make a decision when I was pretty young as to whether or not I was going to kind of fall by the wayside, or if I was going to do something different and try to make my way in life. And I'm so glad that the decision I made was that I was going to work hard. Wasn't the brightest in school, but I worked hard, and I managed to get to a grammar school and then get on to university. And I think that work ethic has always stuck with me. And people often ask, why even now, 14 years after being an MP, do you still go around knocking on doors? Do you still go to the events? Do you still take up all of the casework? And the answer is because I think that hard work makes all the difference. And that's one of my values, if you like, in life, is that I want to have a society where people who work hard, who have a commitment to things, can actually make their way in life. And one particular area is, and this is from some of my school colleagues when I was growing up, is that some of the brightest people we have, some of the most able people we have, actually suffer from great disadvantage. So my main aim in politics is to try to remove those disadvantages, to remove those obstacles, so that no matter where you're born in life, no matter where you're born in life, no matter where you come from, you can make your way in the world. And that informs all of my politics. So it's a great privilege to have been elected as a Member of Parliament for Windsor back in 2005. I didn't expect it, and one of my kind of guiding principles is that you just take nothing for granted in life. And I've never done that, and I'll never do that. And it's your judgment as my constituents as to who is your Member of Parliament. So after I finished university, I went on to start some businesses, and because I felt I needed to create some financial security for the family. And then in my mid-20s, I started getting interested in politics and joined the Conservative Party. And locally, when I look at the politics locally, I want you to be absolutely clear about what I stand for here. I will continue to fight against the third runway. I've been doing it for 14 or 15 years. I'm going to fight against that runway. I know not everybody will agree, but I'm quite clear on this. It would destroy not only our local environment, but it would be dreadful for the environment overall. Secondly, it's not in our national interest. So I will fight tooth and nail to ensure that that project doesn't go ahead. And we've already seen some movement in the manifesto, and I think we'll see some more movement shortly. The second thing locally that I'm going to focus on is the flooding, the area of flooding. Because quite frankly, so many thousands of people were disrupted, and there are still thousands of houses at risk if the Thames overflows. So I'm going to continue to fight for the Lower Thames Flood Alleviation Scheme. We have about half the money available, and I've noticed now that in our manifesto there's another $4 billion available for flooding, and it'll be my job, if you elect me, to make sure that money is allocated in the right way. And the third thing locally is that I want to make sure we have a vibrant and dynamic local economy, including the retail sector and our businesses, because let's face it, every single job, every single penny of taxation comes from vibrant businesses competing with each other to create the jobs and to create the taxes that come from that employment and from the profits that are made from businesses. And nationally, yes, Peter, I do want to see a Conservative government. And I'll tell you why. Because we do need to get Brexit done. Why? Why? So that as a nation, we can come back together and fight for a better relationship with the world than we have today. And I'm passionate about that. And I'm also passionate about the fact that we need to focus on the NHS. We need to focus on our defences. We need to focus on making sure that there's social mobility and making sure that we have a nation where everybody has opportunity. So I say it in an unabashed fashion. I am a Conservative, and I do believe the Conservative Party best represents our interests for the future. Thank you.
First topic of the evening is education. After the opening question, any members of the audience that want to ask a question, if they can raise their hand. Our opening question is from Harry from Windsor Boys School. If you can just wait for the mic to come over.
Hi there, I'm Harry. I'm a student at Windsor Boys, and I'd just like to know, I'm going to university next year, and I'd like to know why someone like me should vote for you.
Thank you, Harry. Why should Harry vote for you, Wisdom?
Thanks for putting me on the spot there, Naheed. Harry, why? Because I represent you. I'm giving you a chance to have a direct say in politics, in how people vote and what we vote for in Parliament. I've talked to people locally, educationalists, people who place people in schools. I'm speaking to tutors and head teachers, and they tell me really that we have a problem with school ratings. We are 23rd in the world as a nation for achievement, and that's not what I want from you. I want for you to be first in the world. So we need to find solutions to help improve, the culture of learning, to look at perhaps even some of the Asian countries where they have a great hard-working culture, to look at increasing the money for the pupils for schools so that schools can invest in the buildings, sports fields. They can also look to make teaching a stable and well-loved and respected career so that you have people you can bond with, and people who will take you along, because you know how important that one teacher or those two teachers are to you. So, in short, I will fight for you. I said I will give you a chance to have a say in Parliament, and will also take up these issues in terms of increasing the achievement for school children, for youth, and for universities in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Peter?
So, Harry, why should you vote for me? First of all, are you definitely registered? Excellent. Good news. Well done. Thank you. That's really important, because otherwise this was a moot conversation. I think, obviously, the focus, I think it's about the opportunity. It's about what you want from life at this point. Okay? If you're in time going off to university, we want you to have access to that, and then through life we want you to have access to opportunities for lifelong learning, which is why we're talking about a national education service, so that you've got access to that as your career progresses, as what you do changes, and as you need to transition, you've got access to that support. But it's also about the way that the economy and society supports you, and what I would say is over the last 10 years it's been a very difficult time to enter the workforce, and it's been a very difficult time to be a young person. We've seen stagnating wages, job insecurity, 0 hours, that we've not really recovered from. I was very fortunate. I joined the workforce in 2006, and I was on the ladder, as it were, in terms of my career and what I was doing. And the same security has not been afforded to you. And so we need to fix that. And it's about fixing affordable homes. It's about fixing your employment rights. And it's about providing that safety net and the structure of an economy that's going to work for everybody. And I think that's what we're offering.
Thank you, Peter, from the Labour Party. Is there anyone in the audience that has got any questions on the education subject before I go to the rest of the panel? Okay, yeah.
Abby's asking, what are your funding plans for schools? Didn't wait for the mic. What are your funding plans for schools, and how will it specifically impact our local schools, i.e. per pupil funding?
Adam from the Conservative Party.
Yeah, so Harry, I don't want to tell you what to do with your life. Let me just put it that simply. I want you to decide which university you go to. I want you to decide which course is best for you. I want you to decide which job and career you have. And I think I'm optimistic for your future, because unemployment is at pretty much the lowest level since records began. The economy is doing well. And I think that, I think what I would say, the reason that, I'm not going to say vote for me necessarily, because I'm not sure where you'll be living in the next 10 or 20 years, but I would think the reason that you should support the Conservative Party is because we will ensure that the economy remains vibrant. We don't make reckless spending pledges and plans. We're very pragmatic, and we recognise that basically it's your intellect, it's your talent, it's the choices that you make that make for a vibrant economy. And in terms of I'll do the boring bit about funding, which is basically that our schools, in our manifesto, what we're saying is that there will be a minimum of £5,000 per pupil in secondary schools and £4,000 per pupil in primary schools. But I'm very conscious that that's just the beginning, because as the economy grows, that then creates the additional resources that enable us to pump more money into education. But there are, of course, also private schools, which I know the Labour Party want to shut down. And that's not something that I would subscribe to, because, again, I think people should be free to choose where they get education. And every single time somebody chooses to go to a private school and pay money out of their own pocket, then they're basically taking pressure off our state schools. So I think it's a good system. I think it's a good system, because basically what's happening is wealthy people who choose to go to private schools are paying twice. Fantastic.
Julian from the Liberal Democrats.
Oh, hello. Hi, Harry. Yes. Right, I'm going to try and deal with the elephant in the room first of all, if you're thinking about this. So tuition fees. We made a stupid promise that we should have either honoured and insisted on as a red line back in 2010, or not made the promise at all. And let's put our hands up, because that was a really very naive thing to do. Now, the plus side of tuition fees, however, as a policy, if you can get past the promise, the plus side of the tuition fees is the amount of money that's gone into universities. One of the great things that Labour did when they were last in government was expand the number of people who went into university, but it was even they accepted that it wasn't paid for at the time, which is why they brought the Brown Commission out, which led to tuition fees and all that sort of thing. Now, it's not just about having well-funded universities. I think it's also about, for those who don't go to universities, we're offering what we call a skills wallet, which is a sort of £10,000, and you can pay it on a number of sort of courses throughout your life. Essentially, you've got this money, it's yours to move yourself forward. And I think that's good. And the last thing is, once you come out of university, of course, you need to have a good job. And it's important that, I hate sounding like Adam here, but we do need to have responsible, to invest responsibly. We're all going to say we've got we've all got to say costed manifestos. Brexit, frankly, blows a hole through the Conservative and Labour manifestos.
Fintan, what's the Green Party's policy on education that will make Harry vote for you?
Okay, well, Harry, I'm stating the obvious here, but assuming you're going to university, you're intelligent. So you would vote for me. Good answer. Because a vote for Green is a vote for life. It's an affirmation and a desire to sustain your life, your children's lives, the environment that we live in this habitat. And yeah.
Thanks, Fintan. I'm not sure if I saw any policies in there, but David, would you like to talk about
Scrap
education?
tuition fees. That's
sorry.
an offer you can't refuse.
Harry, can I just ask you what you're studying? What are you looking to study?
Social anthropology.
Okay, interesting one. Okay. So, first, in regards to university and going into university, depending on how you're going to fund things, I can't introduce any policies on my own. I have to change culture and change people. I don't know whether I can do something for you immediately, Harry, but what I want to work towards in Parliament is changing the culture. And I want to change the culture so there isn't the debt on students where you're burdened with this from start of life. I want you to have a reasonable start, so depending on what you study, I would like to see a reasonable effort to put things in place where you can afford to pay back whatever you borrow. If you're privately funded, whereas Adam said from families who can afford to do it, great. But there's a lot of families who can't. So I want to see, but I want to do a cross-party thing. So I want to go out there, I want to talk to people, I want to understand what's going on. So I don't think it's an immediate. I think anyone sitting on this table can promise you what they like. And we've all heard it all before. I'm 56 years old and I've heard it for many more years than you have. And it's very little that they actually do, and it generally burdens you more in the long run. So I'd like to see a real consensus of taking away the debt from people who are studying and in university, linked to probably the courses they're doing and the money they're going to earn when they come out into the job sector. In regards to funding, I think...
Time's up, sorry.
I do apologise.
Thanks, David. Perfect. We can have one more question. Any question from the audience? Right.
Teacher.
Oh, great. Okay.
Hello. Yeah, I can testify Harry's a very intelligent guy because actually he's one of my students. But I'm worried about Harry. Okay, so I'm worried about every single one of these guys that are going to go next year to university. And I understand the need for tuition fees, and also in most European countries there are tuition fees, although substantially less expensive than the ones that we've got here. There are also systems in place to help disadvantaged students that come from families that actually cannot afford to pay those fees. But what I'm really missing in this debate is the interest rates they are charging the student loans. And since 2012, those students that are entering a student loan are being charged a 3% on top of the RPI. And this is something that I struggle to understand. Because, for instance, I am buying a property in Windsor. I don't pay that interest rate in my property, in my mortgage. Why a 18-year-old kid should be charged for the rest of their lives?
Is there anyone in particular you would like to answer the question?
It's an open question to all of them.
Okay, very quick answers then, a couple of sentences, starting from Adam.
I don't like the idea of high interest rates on student loans. One thing I've just observed, though, is that certainly for the disadvantaged and the least well off, the evidence is really clear about tuition fees. Is more people, a higher percentage from those kind of backgrounds are choosing to go to university. What they're doing differently is they're selecting their course very carefully to make sure that it works for them. And that's a really good thing, I think, that comes through from the understanding that actually somebody else isn't going to be paying this for you, the tuition fees. You're going to have to do it yourself, so you choose very wisely. And I think that's made university courses better in so many different places.
Thanks, Adam. David, very quickly.
As I opened up and I was talking to Harry, I disagree with certain people having to pay fees, and I certainly disagree with anyone paying interest at a junior level completely. It's more about affordability, whether you're taking on a mortgage as a teacher or as anyone in this room, or whether you're a student. It's about affordability and what you're going to be able to earn and get out. Take the pressure off the children and go out into society and try and make the best way for them, not to burden them with thousands and tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt before they start.
Thanks. Peter?
I think I'm not a fan of exploitative RPI interest rates either. I think, and obviously as a party we want to scrap tuition fees, but even before you get to that point, I think you very quickly get to the point with tuition fees where you're reaching the point of it costing us more than the previous system would have done anyway, and that's why we have to accept that's a failed experiment and finance universities a different way now. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Thanks, Peter. Fintan, anything else?
Well, it's a mute question because we will scrap tuition fees, so there's no interest.
Great, thank you. Wisdom?
If you can't scrap tuition fees, then I'd say 0% interest and tax relief on your costs.
Great, thank you. Short and sweet.
I agree with you about tuition fees. I'd just say two things. The grants we should, it's not enough. We need grants for the poorest students. And the only other thing is that the way that tuition fees work, it's essentially a graduate tax. And if you don't earn enough, you don't pay.
Great, thank you. Next topic, NHS and the welfare. Sophie from Windsor Girls' School.
Hi, I'm Sophie from Windsor Girls. So all parties have promised big spending plans for the NHS, but what does this actually mean?
Thank you, Sophie. What does it actually mean, Peter, from the Labour Party?
What does extra spending actually mean? It means valuing our health service again. It means looking at the state of our hospitals and of the staff that work in health and in social care, and saying, actually, you know what, we value what you do. We don't want to continually underfund you and expose you to real terms pay decreases as we've had over the last decade. The money is representative of us saying, actually, this is a valuable public infrastructure, a valuable public asset that underpins everything we do. It is a core part of us as a society, as our identity even, thinking back to 2012. And the funding is symptomatic of that. Now, in real terms, yes, we're going to be increasing the number of GP appointments you have, increasing the number of GP of nurse placements. We're going to be increasing the spend on social care and fixing the 10 billion hole we've had since 2010. But actually, it's about what we need to do for the NHS is more than money. It's returning a sense of value and a sense of morale to the institution so that it can work for us again.
Julian from Lib Dems.
So, Sophie, hello. Hello, sorry. So we first of all said that we need to put more money into the NHS clearly, and we're raising sort of an extra 7 billion in revenue, and on top of that, we're going to put sort of more money into actually funding the infrastructure, so capital spend in terms of the infrastructure, which is really creaking. I mean, waiting lists, frankly, they've just got ridiculous. The other thing which has been, I think, underinvested in is also mental health. And we're really looking, we've got sort of one of the worst depression rates in this country. And mental health, what we pledged is that we're going to treat it with the same seriousness as physical health. Now, I could reel off the things we're going to do, but I just want to say really, the Conservatives have really underfunded the NHS. And one of the worst things is there are so many vacancies at the moment, in particular with nurses, who've left because partly the EU and things like that. And that's something we need to deal with. We need to recruit lots more doctors and nurses, and that will take money.
Thanks, Julian. Have the Conservatives underfunded the NHS? Julian.
Yeah, I think the background is that in 2010, when we went into coalition with the Lib Dems, and there was a massive, just absolutely massive budget deficit. I think it was 153 billion, and in kind of real terms in the budget cycle, about 100 billion pounds overspending every single year. There was no way we could continue that way. after Labour's kind of reckless spending. So yes, we have genuinely had to be pretty tight in so many areas. And it's not because we wanted to be, it's because it's necessary because of the recklessness of the previous Labour government, who always said, we've got to spend more when we're to get our way out of a recession, and then when you're doing well as a country, we've got to spend more than we got in order to invest in the future, and then it always ends in tears. Every Conservative government has had to pick up higher unemployment levels, higher tax rates, bigger budget deficits after every Labour government. So when it comes to the NHS, we want to continue to see it free at the point of use. We believe in our NHS, and what we'd also like to see is another 50,000 nurses. Some are already in.
Is that
some
additional nurses? Or?
Yeah. I know. I've seen the press reports, so I understand. But basically, so over the next 5 years, by the end of the 5-year period, we will have 50,000 more nurses in hospitals than we have today. Just to be clear about that. The second thing is we want to see 6,000. We want to see 6,000 new doctors in hospitals, and we've started 6 brand new hospitals. 34 will be initiated as projects and then funded later on.
Great.
But above all, what I'm pleased about is that we'll actually have 78 brand new MRI scanners and scanning devices for the existing hospitals.
The lady over there, just behind you. Yeah.
Is it?
Thanks.
Eileen Farry, Leonards Road. I've had great experience with the NHS, and only last night I spent 5 hours at Wexham Park. My brother-in-law was taken in with a growth in his nose. It would have blinded him. Our NHS took him in within inside of 5 hours. He's home with me today. He's in recovery, and he's making fantastic progress. Apart from that, just by accident, I went for a mammogram around 2 years ago, and they found a cell which I shouldn't have had. And once again, the NHS, with all of the things people say about it, was there. It could never have done it without the support of the Conservatives.
Adam, is it right to blame the government, the previous government, after all these years?
Is it right to blame the previous government after? Yes, it is. You cannot come in and totally wreck the country's finances and then expect everything to be well funded. And what we've done is we've put this right, even in coalition, even in difficult times. We've begun to put this right. And now,
Peter,
if there's a wholly Conservative government, we will put this right into completion.
Peter, calm down, sir. Hopefully we'll come to you. Peter, would you like to thank you, sir. Peter, would you like to respond to that?
So I think the point's yes, there was a deficit at the point at which we handed over the keys, and I think in the books it was about £1 billion of national debt at that point. It's now 1.7 billion, Adam. So where's all that saving gone? Where's all that saving gone? It's gone on tax cuts. That's where it's gone. We've gone on tax cuts for corporation tax, which is now one of the lowest in Europe, and we've had giveaways. And to be honest, at least be honest about it. All right, you've continued to add to the deficit, and you've continued to add to the debt, and you've continued to underfund services. So where's it gone?
Hi, my name's Jodie. I live in Old Windsor. Adam, I had a question just about the figures. Obviously, people chuckled when you mentioned... People chuckled when you mentioned the extra figures, and it does seem to me that there's some confusion. So I looked up, and the RCN are saying there's currently a deficit of 40,000 nurses in the NHS, which is likely to rise to 70,000 within the next 5 years. The Conservatives are saying that you are pledging an extra 50,000, but we've already found out that 18,500 of those people currently are nurses which you're wishing to retain. I guess it's just, can you add any clarity to that? Because the maths, my maths isn't great, but it doesn't add up. That's not 50,000 extra. Yeah. Nicky Morgan wasn't able to do simple maths of 3 plus 3 on Good Morning Britain yesterday. And with all the extra hospitals that you're promising, how are we going to staff them? It's no good having empty buildings.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so the message is very clear. There will be, at the end of the period, compared to where we are now, there will be another 50,000 nurses. In terms of the vacancies, now I think it's really important to analyse this. The reason there are so many vacancies is because we're looking to hire so many people. So if you say there are X number of vacancies, 40,000, you're correct. And that's because we're hiring. You advertise them, therefore, you know, the jobs are being advertised. So that's part of the mix.
Thanks, Adam. I think we'll wrap it up and have a 15-minute break, and then we'll resume with the next topic. Thank you. Huh?
I just got a bit far in.